welcome back to the inauguration. It's our coverage of all things for the next 4 years. We've been having a very interesting conversation talking about the electoral reform bill, just talking about what governance should be, inclusiveness, etc. And I did promise you that we'd have some statistics. We have our man here who is better with his math. Shiva Kimbaloye.
Yeah, over the last year, he's vastly improved.
Oh yes, and he's been, showing off and telling us he's going to do something.
Show us seriously. I think it's Babajide Ogunsowo that has rubbed off on him.
Yes, we have our data analyst Babajide Ogunsowo who has rubbed off on Sheon somewhat. Hi Sheon. Hi Babajide.
Yeah, hi guys.
Hi Jide.
Hi laddie. There's a show me your friend and I'll tell you. I mean, when you have a friend like Jide who is very good with mathematics and figures, then you'll be able to have a good standing.
Indeed.
And so what we're trying to play around this evening, it was perhaps something that you and I had discussed today around. We're going to dissect what the president will say. I think we did this about 4 years ago when the president broke down what he said, the things that was missed out of what he should say, those things that came out of his speech 4 years ago. But this time around, were you disappointed when you did not get a speech from the president?
I wasn't really disappointed because if we look at, he spoke in 2015, 2016, the vice president delivered the address in 2017 and 2018. Yes, it would have been a great to have for the president to have spoken, make no mistakes about that. But we can look at some of the previous speeches he made and we can infer and we can create our own speech. So if we were to recreate the speech of the president, which we are still going to expect on the 12th of June, which is coming up very soon, what you'll most likely find in the speech of the 12th of June that you wouldn't be disappointed in is you'll find a lot of mentions of security. You'll find a lot of mentions perhaps of Boko Haram and the headsmen, which is what the president has really focused on in his previous speeches. And you'll also find some mentions about jobs, employment, and infrastructure. So that's what exactly we'll expect the president to talk about.
Hear like a policy statement, like some of our guests were saying that they were expecting to hear some major policy statement or something he's going to do.
Here's why a lot of people wanted the president to say something today. Let's remember the words of Napoleon Bonaparte. He says that a leader is a dealer in hope. So whenever the president speaks, he speaks about hope. So he speaks to those that are hopeless and those that still have hope, but their hope is waning. And so whenever the president communicates, his words don't just reflect the subject of health, security, the Boko Haram crisis that we hope to comes to an end very soon. It is about the president represents hope. And that is what people are looking for whenever he speaks.
And you know one thing, Ladia and Ejoma, a lot of people believe, political scientists will tell you that in the beginning of our transition into a new government, that the speech and the policy statement of the government is like a fuel in a car. It helps to drive it from the first day. Perhaps, if you remember some of the things that the president said 4 years ago when he made some the trending statement that he made at the time, I'm for everyone, I'm from nobody. I belong to everyone, I belong to nobody. He made a statement that the military heads need to shift their base from Abuja to the center of the insurgency war in the northeast region. Those are statements that a lot of Nigerians will remember for a long time. But in inaugurations such as this, I'm not certain that we've had, Ladi, you probably will tell us this. Apologies again that I'm coming at you. You've witnessed a lot of inaugurations. So you probably will
You remember 1920?
Yes, absolutely. I remember. So you remember that perhaps is this the first time we've seen an inauguration without an inaugural speech or inauguration speech?
Well, in living memory, this is the first time that I'm aware of. And I mean, if you take a look at the history books, even if you go back to the elections that took place just before independence, that would be the 1959 elections in which the late Sir Tafawa Balewa emerged as prime minister. He did give a speech when he became prime minister. Even on October 1, 1960, he did give another. Even in the run-up to the 64 elections, and then, of course, in 79, Jide reminded me that Alhaji Shehu Shagari gave a speech on the second inauguration in 1983. He also did. And, of course, General Obasanjo on both his inaugurations.
And the re-election.
Yeah, but is a speech a measure of what the administration is going to do?
Well,
I mean, that's a big question. Is it a measure?
A big question is that, would you need a certificate to enter into school? Sort of it's a big question. I mean, no, the question is that you are entering into a new dispensation. So it's an expectation. I'm not sure it's cast in stone.
It's not
any law. It's not constitutional. There might be a reason for the president not giving a speech, but do we have an idea of what they want to do in the next 4 years? They call it the next level. And so we've put together, broken it, some history and looking forward, Buhari in figures, in numbers. That's what we call some of the what we're going to be doing in the next few minutes for our viewers. Wherever you may be watching, it's a beautiful day in Nigeria, in Lagos City, where we're reaching you live on this inauguration program. So let's look at the man Buhari. How old is he? 76 years, Jude. This is, that means -4. He became president for the first time, a civilian president at 72, isn't it?
Yes, it is. But there are three things that we need to, and the viewers probably want to know about this special number 76. The first is, by being 76, President Buhari first becomes the third oldest president in West Africa. Only 2 other presidents within the 16 countries in West Africa are older than President Buhari. And those 2 presidents are, one, you have President Alpha Conde of Guinea, and the second is you have President Alassane Ouattara of Cote d'Ivoire. Those are the 2 only people that are older than President Buhari in West Africa. The second fact, based on his age right now, is just consider this. The second time or the next time we'll find President Buhari at the Eagle Square, it will be 80-year-old, and that will be the time when he will be handing over to the next president. So the president will be 80 years old when he hands over.
When his second term terminates?
When his second term?
2023.
May 29, 2023.
Well, it will actually be 77 in December of this year.
It will be 77 in December of this year, and on May 29, 2023, it will be 80-year-old. But why we shouldn't be too bothered about ages, because let's remember the words of Sir Franklin Berkeley. He says that leadership really is not about age or power, it's about vision and responsibility. Absolutely. And so though the president is 76 now, we expect him to stand and show vision and take more responsibility about the direction of this economy in the next 3.5 to 4 years.
A lot of people will say, some of the wise words that we hear is that the older you become, the more you know, the more you see. So when you see more, experience counts. You can buy it in the market. What 76-year-old Buhari may know, or the kind of decision that he may take, a 40-year-old, a younger person might not know or see. So we're expecting that Mr. Buhari will use the next, his age and his experience as a former head of state, a former general, a retired general in the army, to use those experience that it will count in the next level that he promised. That's one figure anyways.
Experience is important, but more than experience, what he needs before experience right now is to remain healthy, because we need a healthy president to be able to show that level of experience.
Okay, let's check another number that may be significant. It's the fact that this is not the first time we're seeing Mr. Muhammadu Buhari, General Buhari, that he was several years ago, about 36 or so years ago, when he was in the at the helm of affairs in the country. He was a former military head of state, and at that time, it was 44 years, not the time when he took power. When he took power in the military coup, the democratic dispensation of the civilian rule was truncated. You remember at the time, it was 41 years, but by the time there was another military coup, it was 44 years in 1985.
Yeah, you're perfectly right, Chin. When that coup happened in December 1983, he was 41 years old. By the time he left office, he was approximately 44. But here's what I found interesting in today's inauguration at Eagle Square. If you look carefully, you'll find that President Yakubu Gowon, former President Gowon, was in that was among the dignitaries.
At the arena.
Exactly. Now follow this carefully. President Gowon is Nigeria's youngest president. He was 31 years old when he became president. So at the Eagle Square today, we had Nigeria's youngest, and we had Nigeria's oldest.
But Jude, do you think that can happen again? Looking at our political atmosphere and the candidates and all that, can we do it again at 31?
Well, it may not happen constitutionally speaking, because a 31-year-old cannot be president,
Cannot be president.
By Nigerian constitution.
So we have to change that.
Yes,
before we can
it may never happen, or it may not happen, at least for now.
But what we want the president to do this time around is to make use of age, because what happens is we're expecting that age plays out, and that's to have a team that is younger, more creative, and more innovative. Remember the words of Steve Jobs. He says the difference between a follower and a leader is innovation. And what President Buhari needs for the next 4 years is he requires a lot of innovation, Sean. And yes, he comes with experience. Well, guys like you, Ladi and Ijoma, come with
I don't want to go into politics, but Ladi, I guess at some point Ladi might be might go into politics. I think I see it in Ijoma's eyes.
Are you a soothsayer?
Yeah, he's taking that on as a side.
What we really expect and what Nigerians want is for us to have that sort of growth. Currently, Nigeria is in the League of Nations of followers. Yeah. We need to be in the League of Nations of leaders. And for us to be in that league, that special league, we need to come up with more innovative programs, innovative projects, and innovative procedures to how we run the economy. And so while he runs in with, and while the president has that experience to run the government, we should expect to have a younger team of women and men that come in with fresh ideas, more creative ideas into the cabinet, and especially into a lot of the advisory positions, because it's the young energy that is required to be able to come up with risky programs as well that come with high rewards.
The plan of the government, if you look at some of the things they've said they're going to do, is very ambitious. And so much you need young blood to be able to drive it with a sprinkle of experience. If you go back just briefly, the president also, another very interesting number is the fact that he's the fourth president in the Fourth Republic. So within 1960 and now, we've had 4 republics when civilian rule prevailed. So in this republic, from 1999 up until now, he is the 4th president of the Fourth Republic.
Oh yes, and he won the election when he contested for the 4th time. And there's several special phone numbers
in his life.
In his life right now. But what's more than the special things in his life, Nigerians also want to feel special. And the easiest way to make Nigerians feel special, especially the millions of Nigerians who are looking for jobs, is to ensure the unemployment rate comes down. Nigerians want to feel special just as the president is feeling special today by the inauguration, by ensuring that their access to loans becomes easier. Interest rates for loans comes down. But the focus of this government should as well be on policies. For the first 4 years, we saw a lot of emphasis on programs, Sean, a lot of emphasis on projects. But here's what projects and programs do. They are good. But projects and programs makes the government spend money. Policies allows, and great policies allows the government to make money. So in the first 4 years, while the government has spent a lot of money, and we expect them to spend even much more in the next 4 years, the emphasis for the next 4 years should be on policies that can allow the government and assist the government to create opportunities to make money for the economy.
But they said they could spend more, but should they borrow more? Looking at the figures, should they be borrowing?
So if we look at the figures from 2014 to the end of last year, the government has spent 23 trillion naira. That's the federal government, 23 trillion naira in just about 5 years, 2014 to 2018. But here's the concern. Even though we've spent 23 trillion naira, Ijoma Ladi, we've only earned, the federal government has only earned 13 trillion naira.
So there's a deficit of about 10.
A deficit of about 10 trillion naira. So consistently, we have no problem as a nation in spending money. The challenge is we have a lot of problem when it comes to making money. And so programs and projects, like I said, spends money, but policies which we need to now look into allow us to create
But a lot of people
money.
will tell you that the economy of the nation is about over $1 trillion. I mean, 100 trillion. That we have the capacity to even budget more than what we are budgeting right now. Budget should be at least 20% of our total worth of our economy. A lot of people still believe that we have the capacity to extend more in our policy drive and the issues of what we spend. Well, a lot of people will also argue that borrowing is not a major problem. If you have the capacity, in fact, a lot of economists will say that you cannot drive major developmental projects without borrowing. You cannot do roads that you cannot get money for in 30, 50 years. You have to borrow to do all of these projects. The question is that when you do all of that, you have the capacity to weather the storm when you're paying back Do you have the integrity of the income flow and to be able to increase it? So a lot of issues there. Some of the figures, it's 20 years now since they returned to civilian rule, since 1999. We returned to civilian rule in 1999. And this man was, if you go back a bit, this man was a man who midwifed that move, and he
doesn't quite look like this anymore.
Yes,
it doesn't look like
he's
this
got
anymore.
a lot of gray,
Yes.
actually. This was a picture of him at a time, 20 years ago, Abdulsalami Abubakar, who handed over the reins of power to Olusegun Obasanjo, another former military head of state, who became democratically elected.
Was he around during
president.
today's inauguration?
He wasn't. So it wasn't. We didn't see him, and we didn't see that man too. Goodluck Jonathan, a member of the PDP. This man in the middle is late. And so if you see Olusegun Obasanjo, Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, Goodluck Jonathan, and President Muhammadu Buhari. These are the four men who had ruled Nigeria from that moment. But it's 20 years now since that return to civilian rule.
It's 20 years since the return to civil rule, but here's why the PDP, the main opposition party, will be smiling today, and while the APC will also be smiling. The APC is smiling because President Buhari has been sworn in again and is been reinaugurated as the president. But listen carefully to this. 29 governors as well will be inaugurated today. Some of them have completed, are returning. But out of the 29, more than half, 15 of those governors are PDP governors. So while the president is smiling in the villa, the PDP is smiling in their own offices as well, because 15 out of the 29 governors are
in the PDP.
So in the next 4 years, while the economy should be the focus, what we'll expect based on the numbers we're seeing is there'll be a lot of competition politically, so a lot of political
another thing that
jargons.
Nigerians generally, apart from the activities of political parties, is the fact that are we having a growth in our democracy? Election is a true test, some people say, of a growing democracy. So 5 elections since 1999, successful elections that we've conducted in the history. A lot of African states have tried elections that have failed, but Nigeria has successfully held 5 elections within 1999 and now. That's a landmark, isn't it?
It's a landmark, but there are 2 ways we could look at it. We could look at that from that perspective, 5 elections, but what citizens are really bothered about is the impact of these elections, not just the successful conclusion of these elections. Are these elections providing the impact citizens want?
All right.
What are we doing when it comes to illiteracy? How are we performing when it comes to poverty?
All right.
So those are the ways to measure the performance.
Let's run through, because
elections.
of our time. Let's run through some of these figures. Very important. Buhari in numbers. He is an incumbent, the first incumbent, candidate to defeat an incumbent. If you move forward, a lot of people are familiar with that. He's the second former military leader to be elected as civilian president. Obasanjo did that. That's another number that you need to know about Muhammadu Buhari. Now, look at this. He's won election 2 times. He lost election 3 times. He is the second person to have gotten re-election after Olusegun Obasanjo since 1999. Someone did that in 78. He's the second person since 1999. These are some of the figures. If you go to the last very one, so look at the figures in the margin of election that Muhammadu Buhari is participated in 5 elections from 2003 to 2015. He lost 3, he's won 2. Now this is the margin, at least 2 million vote margin from himself and the runner-up. So those are some of the figures, Ladi.
This time around, we see a wider margin in 2019 for him compared to 2015. But INEC needs to provide us some more information. We need to be able to go granular. We need to know who are those that vote. Are they more in the rural or urban area? Are they more men or women? What occupation are the voters?
Are they younger voters or older voters?
So we need more information to be able to really understand where and the profile of the voters are, and that also allows a lot of the politicians to be able to plan using data and using analysis
data is very key.
rather than plan using talk. So INEC needs to release more information that allows us to be able to make more conclusions about this. But you know what's really interesting about today's show?
Yeah?
Exactly on this day, May 29, over a century ago, John F. Kennedy was born. On this day. But today is really
in the
United States, and he later became one of the most popular and accepted presidents of the United States. But today is really not about the birth of John F. Kennedy. It's about what he stood for and some of the things he did.
Guys, I know that if we leave both of you, you're going to go on and on, but we have to go on a quick break, guys. Fantastic figures and very, very interesting stuff there you've got. Right, Joe?
Just too much stuff.
Yes,
I particularly like the John F. Kennedy part of it,
yes.
given the fact that he then went on to become one of the youngest people.
He then went on to become the youngest people. He was born on the 29th of May. But here's one of the things that the landmark decisions they took. A year after Nigeria gained independence, on the 1961, John F. Kennedy made a declaration that was focused on putting a man from the U.S. on the moon. It was an ambitious target, laddie, and the United States achieved it. So here's what the president needs to do and the president's cabinet needs to do. They need to have ambitious targets on when we will have the new ministers. More specific targets and timelines about their promises. Yes, promises are good, but the president now needs to be ambitious by putting timelines and dates on those promises.
Absolutely. Not necessarily putting a Nigerian on the moon, but getting Nigeria
we will get there one day, show. Fantastic. But we're going to have to run. Sorry, guys. We're going to have to run.
Promise tracker. So what Nigerians really want
Sorry, today we're going to have to run. We're going to have to run. If I leave you and show, we will be here forever. But we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Thank you, guys. Both new and old faces there. The Kano State Governor, Abdullahi Ganduje, there in the break just before we came back. And very lovely analysis from Cheo and Jide.
I particularly like the, Fourth Republic and Fourth President, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, and indeed, I like the allusion to the fact that, well, at that point, somebody was talking about getting to the moon, and our own ambitions maybe are not that robust. But
yet.
Not yet, anyway. Maybe at some point we'll get there. Now, we've got to round up this segment, so we're going to give 30 seconds to each of our four guests. I know that's ambitious also, but let me start with you, Senator Mamora. What do you look forward to the most? 30 seconds.
Well, confronting the emerging security issues, cattle rustling, banditry, kidnapping. We need a very secured environment for any meaningful development to take place.
Professor Adibe, same question. What do you look forward to the most?
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking forward to the economic team. The current economic team, or the past economic team, had no economist in it. You had an economic team that's made up of lawyers, which is okay, but you can't have an economic team in the proper sense of it without economists. So we also need to see people putting in areas they have competence, round pegs in round holes, square pegs in square holes. We didn't see very much of that in the in his first term. More importantly, we need to see a sense of urgency, which was lacking and which many people decried. The fear for many people is that a lion or a tiger, a snake hardly changes its spots. Yes, somebody mentioned at the age of 76, he has a lot of experience. The flip side to it is that the person can also be inflexible.
Sorry,
and,
your 1 minute is up,
difficult
Professor
to change his ways.
Professor
So
Adibe,
we are looking to see a president that will be more open.
My apologies for cutting it, but we are running completely out of time. Mr. Fushika, what you're looking forward to the most?
Well, it's just looking forward to.
Yes, the most. What do you want to see the most? If you were to choose one thing.
What should they begin with?
I think the country is too divided, and that has to be addressed.
That's the issue of unity.
The country is too divided, along all those lines that we are talking about, and a people divided cannot make any progress. I think that is a primary thing that we need to address.
Mr. Miami, what do you think?
And I am simply looking for more women advising, helping not only the president as well as the states as well, so that all his vision can be achieved.
Right.
You talked about security. Somebody talked about security, economy, division. If you have more women in strategic places making informed decisions, policy making, strategic decisions, I think I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful.
Okay, so we're gonna have to say a very big thank you. Very enlivening panel, actually. Mr. Fushika, Mrs. Ogunyemi, Professor Adibe, and Senator Mamora. I want to thank you all very much for joining us on this special day. And we look forward, of course, to see you as time goes on. We all hope that everything you've all hoped for comes to pass and not take as much time as everyone might be expecting.
That's right, but we have the news at the top of the hour, and we'll be back. Our coverage is not ended. We're going to be back after the news.